Hello, how are we doing, besties and bosses? Oh, weird. I always feel like I'm sorry, y'all. Every time I log on here, I feel like I have some sort of hiccup. I am a very smart human, but very not smart at technology things like this. I always tell clients, do not hire me for tech. Hire me for business strategy, hire me for mindset, hire me to learn how to think like a CEO and how to make a lot of money. Those are my strengths. Figuring out tech is not. Anyway, that is not what we are talking about today. We are going to talk about how my clients are getting record-breaking results right now. I'm going to dive into exactly what they're doing and how you can steal these strategies or what they're doing so that you can steal that yourself. I also thought, I just like always wanted to give big like little mini updates. I feel like this relates to this conversation, and so many of you will relate to this as well, because I feel like I talk a lot about, and then I sort of will get into the topic, but I feel like we talk a lot about like business and how it's like all about the money, but not about the money as well, or like how important it is to love what you do and love the way you make your money. And I think that's a big part of my message. And yes, I want you to make lots and lots of money, but I really do think it matters how we make it and what we do with it and what the way we make it and how that supports our lifestyle. Anyway, I was just having a conversation with my husband before I went live, and he was I have a very, very, very sweet unicorn of a husband, and he was being very sweet and thanking me. For those of you who don't know, I became the breadwinner back in 2021. My husband they had big layoffs at his corporate job, so we retired him in air quotes, and he now pursues acting full time. So he was just thanking me for the lifestyle we have. He gets to go to the gym in the middle of the day. He just had an audition. He's super happy. He's feeling spacious. And then this is what I thought you would all appreciate. So like that's all, money related, lifestyle related, love that. But the thing he said, and I think this will get all of you and tie into what I wanted to say there, is he's like, but babe, he's like, I was thinking, you know what I want to thank you for the most? You know what's the most important? He's like, I just love so much, and I so appreciate that you always want to grow together and work on growth and grow together as a couple. My heart, as a romantic, my heart, but also I feel like that, and again, we'll get into the conversation today, but I feel like that's something we just sometimes miss in business. We get so focused on just the exterior financial results or the exterior wins, which are so important, but we forget the parts that really, really matter, that we end up celebrating, that we end up cherishing, that are also how we get all of those results. All of those wonderful things I shared about being the breadwinner and our lifestyle, that's great, but none of that matters if we don't have the other part of wanting to grow together as a couple, and like what that means, like both doing our personal growth, but growing together as a couple. And I just think, again, I feel like that's just so analogous to business, especially if we want to be in business for the long term. So that's my little gushy, cheesy share. My husband actually edits these for the vault, so maybe he'll hear this and he can feel extra love. But now let us dive into, and let me know if that made sense, but I feel like that's sometimes what we need to remember, especially when there's so much noise online. What I want to talk about today is, I think, a two-part conversation. I think it's an important one for us to have, because we are hearing, and this is true, I am sharing this, it is very true. It is, I always say, like, I want to keep it real, I don't want to gaslight you. It is a different time in business. We are in a trust recession. The world is on fire. The economy is doing what the economy just does every couple of years. And I think with that, there is a big narrative in the online space. And what I am seeing with clients and what I have talked about is business is different than it used to be. It does require different things to create and sustain results. So many of my clients have been frustrated and said, like, I don't understand. Like, this worked even a couple of years ago. Like, I'm doing the same things. Why is this not working? Things really have shifted. I am really mindful not to say it's harder. I think the word harder gets us in our head, but it is different. And I do think it just requires more intentionality, usually a longer customer journey. Like, it does just require more than it used to. I think that is just so important to name. A lot of the conversations I've been having with clients as well is just naming that, because there's also more than ever more marketing that knows this is a pain point for people. I was just talking with a friend of mine this weekend. We hung out. She's a 7-figure business owner. So we were just masterminding, talking about our own businesses, what's working for us, what's working for clients. And we were just talking about how maddening it is, because we are seeing how true this is and how our clients are still getting results. I promise I'm going to share how you can still absolutely get results and what my clients are doing. We were sharing how this is true, but there's also equally, with all of this noise, because of the fear mongering, I think there's even more messaging and marketing than ever before telling you that you're doing things wrong and telling you that it should be quick and that it should be easy, and that if you just do this one thing, if you just, I don't know, don't ever get on sales calls and sell this one $47 thing, you too will be a millionaire and you don't have to do anything ever again. And I think, not to say that people are lying and there isn't truth to some of those strategies, I think it is more confusing than ever. And what I think is a little bit damaging and why I want to have this conversation and level set a little bit, but also share some of the things that are actually working and that people are getting results is I think it is important to know those things so that you know what to be mindful of, so that you don't gaslight yourself, and so that you don't think, oh my gosh, I'm doing something wrong and I should quit my business because things are different than they were before, or I'm having to be more intentional, or I'm having to put in more effort than I ever did before. My customer journeys are longer. So you're not making yourself wrong with that. That is all normal. I mean, that is just I see a lot of businesses very personally behind the scenes and through peers as well. That is just normal. And so that you don't think you're missing something. A lot of conversations with clients and like, you are not missing something, right? So you can see that you're doing things right. And on the flip side, I really want us to notice how when we know that is true, it is a very slippery slope from understanding that and just seeing, hey, things have just shifted. How do I pivot and adjust so I can keep getting results? To, oh my gosh, everything is effed. I can't still make money. No one's getting results. It's too hard. It's not possible for me. And I think one of the reasons I want to have this conversation and just give some really practical, tangible examples and some really practical examples of the shifts that are not crazy. This isn't like my clients are grinding it out. My clients are getting great results. Some of them, I think many of them, better than even last year or like previous launches. So it's not like they're declining and just holding on. Some of them are sustaining. Many of them are scaling and doing better. But I want to give you some examples of some of the shifts they're making so that you can see they're not crazy big things. They're not grinding it out. They're not working till 3 a.m. Many of them still have course models and are working part-time hours. So I want to show you all of that. But one of the things I'm really seeing with those clients is they're not letting the narrative in the online space and the fact that there are changes become a story that they can't get results. They're just seeing it as, oh, here's what's going on. This is just the landscape. What do I need to do to get results? I can still get results. My business can still thrive. And so I want to start with that because I think I wrote about this in my email, from my email list last Friday. I do see how it's almost like we know too much for our own good. I think if you were to start your business this year, you'd almost have an easier time because you wouldn't know the difference between 2020 and now, but you also wouldn't be hearing all of this narrative. It would just be like, this is just what it takes to start a business or to grow a business and get results. And I really do think while it's helpful to understand that things have shifted so you can make those right shifts, this is creating a narrative that is causing a lot of people to really feed into that story. And once we start looping into a story, y'all know this, y'all understand mindset, right? What we tell ourselves is also the filter through which we see our business, through which we see results. It is how we show up. And so this very much piggybacks on last week's live stream, just in terms of deciding certain things. If we hear all of this and we just decide it's effed in the online space, you can't get results, it's impossible, no one's making money anymore, consciously or subconsciously, if we decide that is what we will then make a plan around and show up to have to be true. It is really, really tough to create big results when all you are doing is focusing on what is hard and focusing on what isn't working and focusing on what is wrong, focusing on what used to be, cling on to the past, focusing on the gap, right? I say this often, right? We have the gap from where we are to where we want to go. And if that's a bridge, if all you're doing is looking down, it is just really, really tough to get to the other side. And the truth is, this is just going to continue to happen in business. If we're all in business for 10, 20 years, I know I don't know if I ever want to retire, but even if I retire early, I plan on being and doing this for a long time. This is just the nature of business. So I wanted to preface with that. I will go into those specifics, but I do think it's just important to notice that. So if you've been hearing all of that noise, yes, that messaging is true. Yes, it is. Things have shifted. Again, I don't want to even use the word harder. I just want to say it's different. We have to be more intentional. I say it's doing less better. I think it's a little bit of like, the cream has to rise to the top. I don't know. I think we just have to be a little bit more intentional, do less better, be a little bit more strategic. In the past, we could just kind of throw things out and we would get results. That's just not what's happening anymore. I do think because of what's going on with trust, it is not that people don't trust you and won't buy from you. I just think we have to be more mindful of that and create more to close that trust gap and or to close the customer journey timeline, because otherwise I do see customer journeys stretching out, and I see customer timelines from when they come into your world to when they're ready to hire stretching out. And that does not mean you cannot get really great results. So let me pull up my notes because I had some very specific things I was looking through. Let me know if this is helpful for y'all to hear, because I always I do these for you. I'm already talking about this with clients, so let me know if these kinds of conversations are helpful. If there's other things you want to know about, I will always share that with you. Let me see. Oh yeah, and I mean, okay, so I'm going to share a couple of client examples in terms of results, and then I'm going to walk through some of the very specific strategic shifts we're making, what we're focusing on. I want you to be able to walk away from this conversation both with evidence that this is not like the industry is on fire at all. I think there is, I think in many ways, I mean, I think in many ways we're actually in a really great time. I do think if you're a business coach, like buckle up. I do think it's just a little bit more challenging to hold clients through this. I personally don't take it on, so it doesn't like ruffle my feathers, but I just had a lot of conversations with clients who are business coaches. And so I think just buckle up because we have a little bit of a wave to ride. And also, I think these types of times in our industry, 2020 was actually very similar when we had the pandemic. I think they are the times that really big businesses are made because it just forces us, and those of you who really want to have a business and to get big results, it does just force us to be a little bit more intentional, to be a little bit more innovative. I think it has a step up in a different way. So I also think this is going to be a time where we're going to see some people really break through and break out and get some like epic results. I'm seeing that in some of my clients. And I think there's just this way in which there's been a little like healthy fire lit under their ass. I also think this is going to be a time we're going to see absolutely more people leave the industry, not because they're not good enough, not because they can't hack it, but I think just more and more people are going to see, oh, it has just changed and I don't like the way it's changed. And I don't like what's required to get results or to run a business online no longer feels good to me. Like this isn't like the thing I want to do. This isn't the game I signed up for. I'm going to choose a different game. And so I think we're going to see a lot of both. So again, just to normalize. Oh, Kate says, love that I get to tune in this week. Love what you said about your husband. Got a little choked up. Always love how you balance money, lifestyle with the important life choices. I love that you got that. I feel like from what I know of you and your relationship that you share online, you are someone who you have a similar type of relationship. So thank you for reflecting that. I mean, the business lifestyle, it's all intertwined, right? And Kate, I feel like you get this as well. And then I'll go back to what we're talking about here, but I think this is important for everyone. I wrote a post on Instagram about this today. I feel like our personal relationships, our partnerships with our romantic partners and our clients, right? Like that is our relationships at the end of the day. That is our business. That is the fabric of our business. That's what changes the day-to-day of our business. That's also what builds our business. Anyway, I can go on and on, but we're going to go on and on today instead of around this. So let me share a couple client results just so you can have that evidence. This is not me trying to like brag at you. I mean, though I'm super proud of my clients, it's more I just want to give you this evidence because I really and truly think if you decide based on like the live stream we had last week where we were talking about deciding, if you decide you want to stay in business, you want this to be your time and you decide you want to have big results, I really think, yes, it might take something different. You might have to put in a little bit more than before. That does not mean burnout. But I really do think because of that, this is that like we're going to just see a huge separation happen. We will see people leave or people just kind of give up. I think this is such an opportunity and we are going to see some people really, really break through. And I think we're going to see some really cool, innovative things happen in our space as well. Okay, I said that already. I'm repeating myself. I just feel fired up about this and I don't want anybody with a great business who wants this to be giving up. Okay, so these are results in the last couple months alone. So I really want to be mindful here that I'm not sharing results from 2020. I'm not even sharing results from 2024. I am sharing, these are results just within the last couple of months alone. I've already shared my business is up 22% in revenue. We've had our biggest cash month this year. I think we're actually going to either have our biggest or one of our biggest years since the pandemic because everybody was wild that year this year. And I think we're on track next year to do even bigger than the year in the pandemic. So just to give you evidence with my own business. Okay, so in the last couple of months, I had one client who got fully booked for the first time in a brand new business. I had another client who sold out their program. They just had a launch and had a record breaking conversion rate in their launch. So it crossed every single metric from their funnel conversion rate to their landing page conversion rate to their checkout page conversion rate. So they sold 730 people into their program. That was their highest ever. It's a multi-5-figure cash launch and again, highest metrics, and they increased all of those metrics. I have another client who had a 10% live webinar conversion rate, which is like basically the best you can get. Another client who in the last couple of months had a 20% call conversion rate from their webinar. So 20% of the people who showed up to their webinar converted into calls. I think it was in like 10 minutes or something stupid like that. Another client crossed their first 9K cash month and they're on track for their first 6 figures. I have I don't know, 16, 17 clients who have crossed six figures. Many have crossed multi six figures. 3 have gone from early stages or 0 to $1 million in business. I'm just talking the last couple of months again here. So just to see, like, this is not someone who like, oh, they're already making 6 figures, so this is easy for them. This is someone who, this is, I think, their first year in business, maybe first year and a half in business. Let's see, another client who got 500 new leads in 30 days and pre-sold 30% of their program 4 weeks before their open close cart date. I have another client who had a 17K cash week, sales week, cash week, 17K week. I don't ever want to misquote that. Very recently, and who matched all of their sales revenue by from last year by June of this year. Okay, I could go on and on here. I have another client who just created a brand new offer that's higher ticket. So all the economy talk, right? She raised her rates, created a new offer, and within a week sold someone into that at higher rates. So again, I just want to give you those evidence that's just in the last couple of months, just to say none of that sounds like, oh my gosh, we're in trouble in the online space, right? All of those are great results. And my clients absolutely are, I mean, I think they're unicorns, but they're also not unicorns in that, like, this isn't something any business owner can do, but they have been really intentional and really leaning into their coaching and really leaning into their business and making some strategic shifts. So that's what I want to dig into. So I'm sure all of them would say, I think some of them would say it feels easier than ever. And I think some of them would say it feels harder than ever and they've never like put more in. I think it would depend on who you were talking to be really honest there. But what I've seen for all of them is none of them, one, created a new offer, but none of them outside of that changed their offer. None of them outside of that changed their strategy. What we've all of them have done is been, yes, like focusing on mindset, just in terms of how they're showing up in their strategy and that just power ownership, but also some strategic shifts. And that's what I, again, want us to dig into a little bit here, just so you can have that evidence. Okay, just seeing if we have, okay, no questions, but if you have questions as we go into these, throw them at me. Okay, so did I make my notes in a way that are clear? Sometimes, y'all, I don't know if you do this. I used to just riff on live streams, which I clearly just like to do better, since half the time I make y'all notes and I don't look at them. Whenever I make notes, I look at my notes, I'm like, what the fuck was I trying to say? I like just write chicken scratch sometimes. At least these are not handwritten notes. My client handwritten notes are laughable sometimes. I'm like, I don't even know why I bother. Anyway, one of the first things all of these clients and I have really been focused on, and I talk about this a lot, so this is not brand new information. I'm sure all of these things are not brand new information, but I think it's just helpful to see these are absolutely moving the needle. So I'd say for almost all of these clients, what we have looked at is, even if they already have really a clear offer that's selling and clear messaging, we have doubled back around to get really clear on what is the specific need to have problem that their audience wants to pay for, and how are we making sure we're really communicating that in their marketing. So again, most of these clients, it's not like they didn't have a great offer already or something that people wanted to buy, but I do think it is really easy for all of us, especially the further you get in business, to forget this important part of messaging and to start to the things that are nice to have, or the things that we're excited about, or the things that feel really good to us. I mean, what I shared at the beginning of this live stream about my husband, that feels really good to me. That's a nice to have. I would say that's a need to have, but if all I did was lead with that, and I didn't also speak to the need to haves that I know you all have, which is like, how the F do you get results right now and make money in your business and continue to sustain and scale? Right? Like, if all I talked about was like retiring my husband, how like yummy and juicy it is to grow together, that'd be like, that's really cute, Cameron, we love that, and I love that for you, and I love that for me too, but first, can you help me figure out how to make money so that I can keep my business going? Because otherwise, like, none of that's even relevant to me. So you all know this. I think we all do this. I think sometimes when we're at the start of business, it's hard for us to understand what that is, either because we haven't served enough clients, or sometimes it's because we've come out of a training program where we're so lit up by certain things and we forget why we started the work and that need to have we had that started the work we're offering in the first place. I think as you get further along in business, that need to have becomes less and less a need to have for you, and you get again into the juicy, the reasons we love our work. I love watching clients get huge results. The thing that really lights me up is when a client has a breakthrough or a big transformation, or believes in themselves again, or remembers who the fuck they are, or takes up more space, or like really feels empowered, right? Like, it really steps into that CEO level mindset, when they handle a conflict in a way they never have before, like that's the stuff that gets me like super excited. So it's so easy for us to get there. So again, it's just coming back to basics here. This is not rocket science. This isn't 2025 only. It's just more important than ever because there is so much more noise. And when there is something going on with the economy, whether it is fear and people are more protective of their money or people are actually being impacted, we are just more discerning with our dollars. And so we just have to spell out more for people how we are solving a clear problem that they need to solve and want to pay for. And it's a big enough problem. I think that's the other thing. Sometimes we just focus on these really small problems. It needs to be a big enough problem that it is worth it for someone to spend and invest the money you're asking for. Or a big enough desire that someone wants to pay for. Sometimes we get really focused on these nice to haves, and it's not that it's not a problem, but I recommended the Successful Ads Club. I took that program for my ads. She frames it this way, Tara, what's her last name? Tara, the person who runs Successful Ad Clubs. She frames it as we have to sell, like speak to the migraine, not the headache. We don't spend a lot of money to get rid of headaches. If we have a migraine, like that is a big enough problem where we're like, take my money, let me just like fucking figure this out. I know I'm ranting on this, but I just cannot stress enough. This is something like for myself as well. Like this is just something I think is just more important than ever for all the reasons we just talked about. And I think just with what's going on with trust as well, right? If people are having less trust in the industry, the more you can spell out, I know exactly what you're going through. I know exactly what your problem is, and I have a solution that is for the exact problem you have that is big enough you want to solve, right? If I get migraines. If someone can actually tell me what is going on with migraines and has a real solution for it, I'm going to pay attention to them. If they're kind of talking about all the things around that, I'm not even paying attention. Especially when I've tried a bunch of stuff that's never worked. I already have a really low trust that anything's gonna work. So you've got to really grab me there. Okay, the next thing we've been doing is for my clients, most of my clients are in some ways having a conversion event and using landing pages in some way. So we have really been going through landing page copy on calls together, through webinar slides, challenge, whatever they're doing. I've shared this before. We've been going slide by slide, but what we've really been focusing on is, yes, the specifics I just talked about. The teaching style, I already did a live stream on that a couple of weeks ago, the difference between nurture and conversion content, so I won't repeat that here. But one of the specific things I'm really seeing make a difference in launches and overall when you're running conversion events, I've really been encouraging clients to make their content much more concise, AKA short. We have no fucking attention span anymore. We just don't. I love you all so much for hanging with me on these long live streams. I think with a live stream, it's a little different because you can listen to this or listen to it like in the podcast version when you're like doing something else, but especially for a conversion event where the goal is literally to convert and we're asking people to show up live. People are really tuning out at about the 40-minute mark. So I'm really encouraging clients to make their and landing pages too. I'm having them focus on the above the fold landing page conversion copy. I created a freebie for this if you want it. We gave this away with Words That Sell, but if you want my highly converting landing page template, just comment below or DM me and I'll send it to you without the whole masterclass. One of the things we're specifically looking at is the copy above the fold. And then again, we're really looking at, yes, overall, the messaging in their webinar, in their conversion event, but I'm really having them work on making it more concise and having that pitch come much, much earlier. And this is something I literally a couple of years ago was like, don't even worry about it. Like my live streams were like 2.5 hours long. They converted beautifully. I was like, do not worry about it. Like just, you could fire hose people with information. Like people love it. I really think back in 2020, we were all sitting at home and had nothing better to do. We actually wanted something longer. We wanted more information. Between having AI give us so much information and being overwhelmed AF and having short attention spans, I think post-COVID, I just don't see that anymore. I think people really value when you can give them, less is more. And I really see bringing that pitch in earlier making quite a big difference with conversions. It seems so simple or so little, but if we think about the reason for that, people start to tune out. People are distracted. If you can help them get a small win shorter, faster, and easier, and it's not overwhelming, they can actually implement it or see how they could implement it or see how it's possible for them and see how they can take action, right? That is a great selling proposition. Whereas if everything else they're listening to is really confusing, hard to implement, it's so much harder for them to see why there's value in investing further with you. So I won't hit you over the head with that one, but I think, again, that one can just make such a big difference. And I'm really seeing it in conversion rates. Again, I was just talking about live conversion rates. A 10% live webinar. Actually, I had one of my clients had 100% live webinar conversion rate. And we also need to, our next launch, our goal is to get more people showing up live. So some of that was, she didn't have the number showing up live, but she had 100% live conversion webinar rate. My other client had quite a lot of people show up live and had a 10% live conversion rate recently. This is a big part of it. Like both of these clients, this is literally what we worked on and shifted. Again, and seeing this, like that does take more work and intentionality. I think it is so much harder to make something concise and really tight and to hit that pitch earlier and to really give people just less is more and have that really be potent than it is to go on for 2.5 hours. They spent multiple sessions working on this. So it's not to say it didn't take effort and intentionality, but it's not like this is so difficult or something no one can do or so confusing or you need an MBA for it or there's some like hack some guru has on Instagram that no one knows. It's just taking the time and maybe having the support that's willing to go through that with you. Okay, another thing we're really doing is looking at how are we building trust very intentionally through nurture content, really through the lens of how is this building trust. And so not just having nurture content, though I'd say every client who's had a great launch result recently, we've focused on pre-launch content as well as their launch conversion event, but specifically in that pre-launch content. So meaning content happening, what is it, like summer abs are made in the winter, launch results are not just based on what happens at a launch, it's what you've been doing the 90 days before. We're really focused on that 90-day block before. I just got off a call yesterday with a client who has a launch in January. We're talking and mapping out her strategy from now until January in terms of, yes, list growth, like audience growth, but also the nurture content. And one of the things we're looking at is relationship building. Well, let me go back to that. One of the things we're really looking at is specific content designed to build trust, that's showing values, that's showing social proof, that's showing why me and credentials very intentionally to build that trust. Leading up to her next launch. And then the other thing we're really focused on is relationship building. That's what I said at the beginning of this live stream. This is not new, and I've been saying this for 9.5 years. This is what my whole business has been built on. This is probably what every business coach says, so this is not new information. But in an AI-driven world, relationships matter more than ever, and building deep relationships and personal relationships as opposed to surface level through a 3-second reel is everything to your result. And so that's just something we're really focused on in terms of how can I intentionally show up offline to build results? How can I intentionally do some personal outreach? How can I intentionally, if it's doing more live streams or content like this, how can I intentionally show people more of my heart in my content to build that relationship? How can I maybe get on some more calls with people than I would have in the past? Or I have a friend of mine who she's hosting a lot of in-person events, like more for networking and connection, and smaller communities that are really low cost, more to nurture those relationships, and that's how she's making a lot of her high ticket sales. So we're just focusing a lot on that. And then in terms of trust, the other thing we're really looking at, and again, this is not stuff y'all don't know, but just so you can see that I'm really seeing these things move the needle, like percentage points in terms of conversions that make a difference. One of my clients, I think her funnel conversion rate increased by a whole percent, which is significant in terms of sales and revenue. For those of you who aren't excited by data, I mean, there's a huge difference if you're right now converting at 1%. If you can convert at 3%, for example, or get up to 4 or 5%, like that can change your entire business. Same with a landing page. If you're converting at 20% and you can get it up to 35%, like that's it really starts to change things. So one of the things we're just looking at is testimonials, and I've just really been on my clients about getting more testimonials and including those. One of my clients who just had increased her metrics across every part of her launch, including her landing page for her conversion event, and also all of her conversion rates on her sales page. We really worked on the copy for that, but one of the things I had her do was just go, she already had testimonials. I was like, I want you to go and get more. And we just flooded that page and flooded her webinar with testimonials. It just built so much trust, especially in a world where, there's AI, everything, and people are who you say you are. And then with that, we're also just looking at how to create more face time. So this is a little like FaceTime, whether it's with a testimonial, right? Having a client interview, having a client send in a video testimonial, or FaceTime with you. I think, again, this just goes back to the trust piece and the social proof piece. There is just something different when we have FaceTime or even audio time on a podcast than simply something that is written. You don't have to do that depending on what you sell, but I do see that supporting. I mean, I think that's always supported conversions, but I do think it is really supporting the trust building even more so, specifically because of AI. And I do think right now people also want to know like what it feels like to be around you and in your world. And so going back to earlier, sharing those values, but also being able to share more of who you are, not just information, I think goes a longer way than many of us realize, which is also why in-person relationship building, whether that's in person offline or in person on a call or in person like we're doing here where I'm live, I think we don't realize, and it's so easy to say like nothing's working. This is why the mindset part is so important, or to like that doesn't work anymore, no one watches lives anymore, like I have less listens than I used to on my podcast, and to think that doesn't matter, and to not realize what a part of the relationship and trust build that really is. I know I've had multiple clients tell me that yes, they came into my world because of a conversion event or because of an ad or because of the Facebook group or because of a post, and like they'll reflect a certain piece of content back to me. But so many of them reflect back this live stream, my bite-sized videos, bite-sized biz lessons on Instagram, or going into the vault to binge content and building that relationship with me as to how they got to know me and trust me and understand what it would be like to work with me. I have another client. Another client went. She just went from. She just has a. She's top 5% podcast. She was 10% before when we started working together, and she's now at 5%. And she started booking more clients. And I think that is not. We could go into a whole conversation there in terms of like what increased that from 10% to 5%. But I think just even there is such great evidence for you. She's also making more sales, and she's raised her rates. So it's not like she lowered her rates or discounted things, but she is, if her podcast has gone up to top 5%, she is not only reaching more people, but she's building that much more of a deeper relationship and that much more trust and that much more showing people who she is, her values, her heart, her work, what it's like to work with her, all of those things that really matter. It's not a coincidence that she also is booking more clients at a higher price point than before. Okay. Kate, sorry, I just missed the comment from before. I was like on a rant here. Kate says, this is something I'm working on, really seeing myself in terms of what I share, as I want to give all the details, but I have to see how overwhelming it can be. Kate, I so feel you on this. I think we're similar in this way. I want so badly to help people, and to like, I'm a coach's coach. I want to see everybody win. I think there's enough for all of us to go around. I wish I could just coach everybody one-on-one. And so I think in that way, I'm like, I just want to give everybody all the information. And so I really, really feel you in that. And this is teaming up perfectly for the other thing that I started talking about with the webinars, but then I'm seeing just in terms of offers as well, really help client get bigger results. And it's exactly what you're talking about, Kate. It's really the way I think about this is, part of my maturity as a coach and a business owner is or my job and what people are paying for is not all of the information and everything that can help them, but it's me distilling and discerning what are the few things they actually need to move the needle forward. If I've got 9.5 years of experience, that's great. How can I save someone a lot of time and make it a whole lot less confusing and easier than it was for me, because I can just cherry pick the few things they need. That's really where I see the most value in something we're offering. And so to what you're saying, Kate, and what I'm seeing for a lot of clients and what I've supported a couple of clients with is looking at their offers and actually pulling out some of the things from their offer so that we're actually giving people less. And hang with me, because I'm going to also tell you what we're adding back in. But with the idea that, and the understanding that sometimes when we give people so much, it is actually very overwhelming and it gets confusing and it gets people in the weeds. And especially if you're creating a course, I think in the past, there was not so much an art to creating courses. It literally was just like fire hose people with information. I think now people know courses can be great and such a great. I've taken some great courses. I'm not like anti-courses. I've taken some great courses actually. The ads course I took was excellent. What was excellent about it is it just gave me what I needed to know, and it didn't get me into the weeds. It was it was a very well done teaching modality. Kate, you're like from the teaching world. You probably actually like could school us all in this. You could probably do a class on this content idea for you. But one of the reasons for that, one of the reasons I think I'm getting such great results with my ads and such a great conversion rate, like yes, I'm great at messaging and all of that, and I have an infrastructure on the back end that's converting, but I think part of it is that program gave me exactly what I needed to get a result, exactly what I need to know without getting me into the weeds too much. And I'm someone who likes to get into the weeds and likes to know that stuff, but it still kept it lean enough. And so I'm coaching clients, whether it's a strategy intensive that they have, or it's a course that they're creating, or it's a membership program. We're really looking at what are the things your people actually need that facilitates results. What are some of the things that oftentimes what I have clients check in with is, where are you putting things into this program because you feel like it's not good enough, because you're feeling insecure, because you're feeling like you need to prove something, because you're feeling like you need to like let them know you're good enough, or like it's worth the money. I think this happens a lot for us, whether it's in a one-on-one container or in a course or group program, right? If we're feeling a little bit insecure, or if we've just raised rates and we don't feel solid in that, it's very easy to feel like, well, the way I can justify this is to just dump more in. And I really want you to think about a high ticket offer, and what facilitates results is in the art of editing and edit. And it's the same with a high converting masterclass or webinar. Is not about just what you put in. It's also about what you edit out and delete out. That is part of maturing as a business owner, as a teacher, as a coach, but it's also what really facilitates conversions and better results for our people. And so we're looking a lot at, what do we edit out? What have we put in because we're feeling insecure? What do we edit out? And really then seeing with that, you have a very, very tight offer that is going to be easier and less overwhelming for people. If people are overwhelmed, if people are confused, they're bouncing, they're not buying. They're just going on to somebody else's program that might not even be that good, but it just seems, it's like super, super simple. I know one of the things my ego has to really just be okay with is, so often I coach a client and they're like, oh, that was simple. Oh, yeah, I already do that. My job is not to like wow and razzle and dazzle them with like, here's all the complicated shit that makes it harder. It's often to be like, actually, it's just this simple. Actually, we could just not do all of this and just do this one thing. Actually, you already know the answer to that. We don't need to overcomplicate it. That's what blows up results, but it's also what leads to conversions. And so, for example, I just had a call with a client. They have a strategy similar to many of us with one-on-one that I coach clients around, where they have a smaller offer for their one-on-one and it leads into a bigger offer. And we were just talking about converting from the smaller offer into the higher ticket, longer term coaching program, and just looking at how she has an intensive, her smaller offer, it was just cramming so much in. It was really leaving people feeling like they needed 2 months before they were ready to move forward. And we just really needed to edit some of that out so that it was less overwhelming, so people were really ready to move forward to increase the conversion rate there. And with this, on the flip side, last thought I'll leave you with here is, I'm just seeing Kate or anybody else, let me know if you have questions around this or reflections on this. The other thing with this is, for all of that, like, yes, we are editing out. The other thing we're focused on is what I'm really seeing work in, I think this always works in launches, but I'm just really seeing for my clients who are getting great launch results, what we've been doing is paying attention in the launch to what people are craving, to what people are currently needing, and then creating launch specific surprise bonuses with new content or a new bonus call or a new bonus group call that is really specific to what we're hearing people currently need. And so in many ways that is giving people more, but it's not overcomplicating, right? We're keeping the core program intact, but I'm just really seeing those bonuses make a difference. And so I think of this as, we just have to give people more of an understanding as to why me and why now. Right? So in your case, why you and why now? Why should someone buy from you, and why should they buy now and not wait 6 months or a year to see how things change in the industry? And so I think a great way to do that is to have those really time-specific, limited time bonuses in your launch, and to really tie those to something that is timely and specific that your people are telling you they want and need right now. So for example, if you sell, let's say, a course, we just did this with one of my clients, right? You might have a mid-cart and a closed cart bonus. Actually, a couple of my clients are doing this. One's doing a different early bonus. you might have your program intact. All of them are looking at, yes, but what is something specific that isn't in the program that all of my people really are talking about, really want help with right now, really want to know? How can I create a specific bonus that is only available right now? And if you buy this round, and if you buy, during this launch cycle. And I'm just seeing that work really, really well. And I think it makes sense because it isn't overwhelming, right? It's not like there's so much nitty gritty information. It's really timely, and it's something like a fire people want to put out now. I think it also just creates natural scarcity and urgency, right? Like, it's scarce because this is going away, and it's urgent because I need it. It's a need to have problem now. But it's also scarce in that this isn't going to be around later for the next launch. So if you don't buy now, right, you're going to miss out on getting this, whether it's information or group call or connection or done for you added on service, whatever that part is. Okay, just seeing here, I don't think I have any questions. I think, let me just look at my notes. I think those were the main pieces. Yes, the why me and why now differentiators, and adding in that time sensitive material and bonuses. Yep, we talked about personal relationships and reach outs. I think that was everything. We talked about the personal relationship building. I will just close on this. I think this is just helpful to say personal relationships are everything. Building relationships are everything. Do not underestimate how many people who have big businesses and are getting big results are also leaning into personal outreach and personal touch points. You do not have to do that. It is not required, especially if you want to have an evergreen funnel. And I am also seeing, especially for high ticket offers, just how many clients and peers and myself are really leaning into that and what a difference maker it can be. And so you don't have to do it. And I think there are times in which we don't want to, based on how we want our business to function. And it is a really great card you can have in your back pocket for when you see things slowing down or you see results not coming in the way they used to. I would always come back to, what am I doing to focus on those personal relationships? And that goes back to the trust building, right? That goes back to teaching people why you, that goes back to showcasing your values, but also the personal touch points and the personal outreach. It doesn't have to be outreach, it can be touch points, but really and truly, again, that goes back to whether it's networking or sending someone a DM or creating a personal video in your sales email sequence, or hopping on a call with someone, or being willing to have a sales call, or being willing to take someone behind the scenes of your program in a video, or recording a coaching session, or I could go on and on here. In a world that is so heavily automated and AI generated, and that we have so many people who have just done everything they can to scale out of business and to scale out of that personal touch, and there are so many people offering the same thing, and we are in a time where there is less trust and people are craving connection, and people want to know that when they invest, they're actually going to get true support, right? Offering these things. Another example is you could offer, I had a client do this with her launch. We, on top of our conversion event, she hosted a free, basically, group coaching call for people before they got into the program, not as a bonus. It worked wonderfully, right? But that's just a way to show up and build that personal connection, right? To have that personal touch. So all of these, you don't have to do all, I just gave 1,000 ideas. You don't have to do all of them, but it is just, these are the massive needle movers, and they're the massive needle movers because so many people aren't willing to do them. Because the people willing to do this are the people who are going to be the people who are thriving right now and who actually want to be who actually want to be coaches or service providers or OBMs, not the people who just got in 2020 because they thought it was a way to get rich quickly. Not that you can't also get rich, and we're mad at that. It gets to be both. But I think that really starts to create a divide. And something I always remind clients that I'll just close on is, I look often at big companies, and I study success. I study the success of my clients. I study the success of peers. I study my own success. I study what goes into success. And I look at big companies outside of our online space and small businesses. And one of the things that we just see has always been true is large companies spend a lot of money and resources on building relationships and hiring people who can make those personal touch points, right? They do that for a reason. They have a lot more data than us. They have a lot more advertising dollars than us. They can throw a lot of money at marketing and ads, and yet they still hire people specifically to build relationships and to create personal touch. I see how certain companies hire people, for example, to call my husband and I after we buy something to thank us, or to offer something else, or to create a concierge feeling. And of course, we are now loyal customers. Of course, that makes us want to spend more money. Of course, we're then going to buy from them versus someone else. So I see it in terms of how it translates into sales as well and dollars spent. But again, if large companies that have a lot of money and resources for advertising and have a lot of data and literally will do market research and what do you call them? Why can't I think of the word? When you have a group of people, not case studies. Oh my gosh, why can't I think of the word? I want to see what Kate has to say. Oh, I used to work in advertising. It's like when you have a group of people and you study them to see what they're, anyway, y'all know what I'm talking about. It's just like eluding me, the word for that. If they're spending so much money on that, again, I worked in advertising. It is wild how much money is spent by some big companies. And if they're still hiring people to build relationships and for personal touch, and a large portion of their budget goes there, it is for a reason. And so we can all borrow from that, especially if we're seeing in our space how many, I mean, that's also just what's working in content, right? You can even take that to your content. If you want to know what works in content, how do you make it more personal, right? How do we share from the personal lens? How do we build that personal connection, that relationship? But I would just see, like, if that's the case, of course that's true for you and me. And one of the gifts as a smaller business is we just have an easier time, right? It's just easier to not be untouchable and to actually connect with the CEO of a small business than it is with a large corporation. And so we actually have an easier time doing this. Okay, I will get off my rant there. I feel like I'm ranting. Kate says yes to relationships. That's always been the root of everything. It can be so easy to overlook it, especially with sparkly marketing, saying you can post and convert on one post. Not saying that's not possible, but personal outreach is so powerful. It is. I just love what you said there, Kate, because both things can be true. It's not to say you can't. I have absolutely posted something and one post is converted into a client. And I think there's always a lot of nuance behind that. When I have someone find me and hire me the next day, or it's one post, I also have an entire ecosystem, right, to build a relationship with them with literally almost 200 podcasts. And I don't know, at this point, 300, 400, 500 lives, or however many 7 or 8 years times 52 or 50 weeks probably is and master classes, right? So even there, I always wonder, is it really one post or is it all of these other things? And then it still goes back to the power of those relationships and that personal touch. I cannot tell you how much of my business, I mean, Kate, you know this, but just for other people listening, watching, I've been in business for over 9 years. I've been fully booked for 6.5. I've made, I think it's 73 or 74 consecutive 10K to 40K cash months. Currently, it's more like 30 to 40K-ish cash months. We make multi-six-figure years. I pay myself multi-six-figure years after expenses, so it's very profitable. And I cannot tell you, so it's next month I think we'll hit 1.8 million cash. Most of that is based on personal relationships. Most of that is not because of one post. And it does not mean my content has not supported that. It absolutely has. But to pretend, like, and I'm like, my business has been built on content. So I'm not saying that that is not a very, very important part. Like literally content and content marketing has built my business, but it is the relationship building through that and the personal relationships and getting on calls with people and talking to people and sending a DM to someone and someone I talked to 3 years ago and being willing to support a client in a different way. Like it is the relationship I have with a peer who sends me a referral. It's the relationship with someone who has me on their podcast, and then because I'm on their podcast, someone hears about me and consumes my content and hires me. It is all relationships. And so I'm ranting, but Kate, I just appreciate that you said that. That does not mean content does not work. It does not mean it's not important. I will die on a hill for content as well. And all of that works because we do it through the lens of relationship building. Okay, I hope this was helpful for y'all. I hope, if nothing else, you take away from this that we are not doomed. The online space is still thriving. People are still investing. People are still hiring people. Businesses are still doing great. I think if anything, this can be a time, like I really think of this as like this gets to be our Super Bowl for those of us who like are okay, who like actually want to be in business, who like the game of business, who like what we want to do, who are here for the long game. Like this gets to be our Super Bowl, and that we like get to shine. Like this is a time, like yes, we might have to dig in a little bit more. We might have to be a little bit more intentional. It might take a little bit more thought, right? I have to be more thoughtful when I create a live stream or a master class than I did a couple of years ago. I don't think that's a bad thing. Like, yes, it may be a little bit more challenging and stretch us a little bit more. Yes, we might have to create some more touch points. We might have to be willing, in air quotes, to do things other people aren't willing to do. But I hope from what I shared today, none of these things I shared are even new business strategies or ideas. And none of these are things where it's like, oh my gosh, Kim, I have never heard someone talk about relationship building or about sharing testimonials or about being more concise. These are all things that have always been true. It's just the more we are willing to lean into some of these things and to solve the right problem, which right now is saturation, it is trust, it is economic uncertainty. We just have to solve for those problems in a way that we didn't have to in 2020. And it's overwhelmed, I would say, is the other problem we're solving for. If we can just focus on solving the right problems in our business, we can still get incredible results. And I really and truly believe this can be a time that so many people pop and break out. And if all of that sounds miserable to you, there is also no shame in that game. I think that it's also a time where it is okay to acknowledge that. And we might just see more people saying, like, I'm cool just coasting, or I'm cool just having my business like doing what it's doing, or I'm going to take my business offline, or maybe I want to, see what clients come to me and also work part-time somewhere. And I just also want to say that is also okay. I have absolutely coached clients through that in the past. And so one is not better than the other. I think there's such bullshit that entrepreneurialism is better than something else. Entrepreneurialism is better for those of you who entrepreneurialism is better for you because you are unhireable, like you could would cry somewhere else. It is not for someone else where thinking of what we're talking about here makes you actually cry and you're like, actually I'd be really happy for someone else. Okay. So that's my long spiel. Kate says, thank you for a great class as always. Thank you for being here. I love you. I love you all so much. I also know there is a lot of saturation. There are so many people you could listen to. I appreciate you being here on the live, on the replay. I hope this is valuable to you. I'm spending some time thinking about other ways I can create some value and support all of you. So stay tuned. I think I have a new idea I'm cooking up, totally free, but just another way to support you all. And I just do not take it for granted. I appreciate you all so much. And I will be back next week. Oh, I should say, if any of you want support with this and with growing, scaling your business right now, being one of the business owners who's learning how to love the process in the game of business, but also digging into your strategy and seeing what small tweaks you can make, what shifts you can make to continue to get results, to blow up your results, or with the mindset side of things to get back into business, to believe this can work for you, to remember who the fuck you are, to take up more space. I would love to connect with you. I am fully booked with one-on-one clients, but I am meeting with people. I should have, well, we'll see what happens with the renewals. I think I'll have an opening November, December. I might open up an additional coaching spot. I'm thinking about that. But either way, I'm booking week-long strategy intensives right now. So no matter what, I do have those available over the next couple of months. And a week-long strategy intensive is a great place for what we're talking about here to dig in, whether we go through your launch strategy, we go through webinar slides together, we look at your sales funnel, we look at your content, we look strategically at what you're going to do to make things more concise, what you're going to do to relationship build, everything we talked about here. A strategy intensive is great for that if you want to look into your, update your messaging so we're really speaking to that need to have problem. I would love to support you. I'll drop a link for a free coaching consultation. I will be opening up a couple of those week-long strategy intensives for sure. And then to be determined or to future date on the ongoing waitlist spots for one-on-one. But if you're interested in that, definitely reach out to me, book a call, because if nothing else, we'll put you on the waitlist for that. All right. I love you all so much. Appreciate you. And I will see you next week.